guys is what is one win that has happened in your city in this last month? So think back to between our last call and now, what has been a conversation that was a win? What has been maybe a project, maybe it was your city day, but what was an advance in your city in the last 30 days? And we're just going to take 5 minutes. You'll break out into your 3 or 4 groups, 3 or 4 people in your groups. And then we'll see you back here in 5 minutes.
All right. I need to choose a group. Is that right, Dave? Or
That's right. Yep. You just jump into one of the ones that has 3.
Do I click on breakout rooms?
Yep. Yep.
All right. I'll jump in.
Whoop, whoop. Nice job, everyone. Jeff, I'm going to hand it over to you. You're going to take it away.
Sounds good. All right. A couple things here. So number one, our book, Love Our Cities, was released just under 2 months ago. And the response has been just incredible. Just on Amazon, we were like #1 in 3 different categories for a while there. And it was just pretty overwhelming. Here it is right here. So you see on Amazon, It's cheaper. They keep lowering the price for some reason, which is a good thing, I guess. It's more available to others. So if I think most of you have gotten a copy, if you have not gotten a copy, get a copy on Amazon, or you can go whatever books store you want to go to, but get a copy. And then here's what I need you all to do. We've got 43 ratings or reviews right now, and we need more. And so if you have written a review, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you have not, can you do that? Can you take 2 minutes right after this call and just write a 2-sentence review? And you can read some of the others for ideas if you want right here as well, but for 2 minutes. So let me ask you this. I'm going to put you all on the spot. Okay. How many of you raise your hand and say, you know what? I haven't written a review yet, but I'll write one after this call. Can I see a hand? Any hands going up? Yay. I got 1 hand. Everybody else have written a review. Thank you so much. So seriously, thank you so much. That's what makes this thing happen here. So Glow, thank you for pulling that off. I really appreciate that. The more reviews you get, the more Amazon takes notice and the more it gets profiled. And so we just want to get this message out the best we can. Second thing, so a lot of our cities, I know many cities aren't with us right now, but we had a lot of cities this last spring. We had nearly 18,000 volunteers that we know of that volunteered in our cities this last spring. So the #1 question that you guys ask, and our volunteers certainly ask, is what's next? Yes, we had a great volunteer day, but what's next year? Is it just wait to next year, or is there more this year? And so I know many of our cities have ongoing initiatives, ongoing ways to partner with schools, to work with kids in foster care, or bettering neighborhoods, or homelessness initiatives, all these are the things that go on in our city that make the work that we do sustainable. Now, many of you have maybe your own organization now, or you have staff, you have a lot of people that are helping you with that. There's a lot of you here that, and certainly among our cities, that they don't have that yet. You don't have your own organization yet. You're just started, and maybe one day you want to get there, but you're not there yet. And so you can do what you can do, and what you can do is pulling off a great volunteer day. And you just did all you could this last spring, or you're going to do all you can this fall to make it happen. My encouragement is, minimally, if that's what you can do, thank you. And #2, make sure you have projects that are sustainable, ways where people could continue to volunteer. Maybe you can't pull off all these other initiatives, but you can have ways and encourage people to continue volunteer year round, to get involved in their community year round. And one way certainly is keep volunteering in the project you signed up for regularly. Maybe it's weekly, maybe it's monthly. And so you want to make sure you have projects and project leaders that get that will follow up well with their volunteers. And another thing you can do is promote the good going on in your community. we all have great organizations in our community that are doing great things. We need to be championing them. If they have a big fundraiser coming up, if they have a big volunteer event coming up, if they've got anything coming up that is a wonderful common good thing going on in your community, you can promote that. So even though you don't have a staff, you don't have your own organization, you don't have all these initiatives going on, you can still make a huge difference year round. It doesn't just have to be one day. But I do want us to focus this call a little bit here on what does it take to have an initiative? What does it take to have a homelessness initiative? Or you have to ask your community, by the way, what are the needs? What are the gaps that need to be addressed? And you're going to hear today a little bit about how to do that and hear about what's going on in a city, and that maybe we all can learn something about what we can do better to address some of the needs of our own city. Before we do that, we're going to take a quick little poll here. I'm going to turn over to Dave. We're going to take a quick poll so we know what we have here on what you're doing, what you're not doing. And so if you can, Dave, I'm going to turn over to you to guide us through this poll here.
Sounds good. So you got a poll that's on your screen right now. There's 5 questions to it. And so we get to give you a few moments to work through these 5 questions. They're pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And so I'm gonna give you about 60 seconds of silence to read through those and click on an answer and then click submit. And then we'll go ahead and share the results with everybody.
So Dave, we just click on yes or no, and then we hit end poll when we're done.
You don't,
I don't.
I
don't do it. Okay. I got control. I have the keys here, so I don't.
That's right. So, gotcha. So yes, please don't hit end poll.
Thank you.
It's good. We got a third of folks who have responded so far. Give you a little more time to wrap in the rest of y'all. Give you a chance. You're going to see some really fun enthusiasm, and then you're going to see some, oh, really? As I'm looking over the results as they're coming in. So keep at it. Over half are done. All right, I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results with y'all so that you can see them and scroll through them. It looks like 69% already have ongoing serve initiatives. And so you know what that means? That means it's really good news for the 31% that don't yet have ongoing initiatives, because the folks that are in this room have some wisdom. And so we can share that wisdom here in a bit with one another. And there is excitement and interest generally in doing these. Now, here's the part that I'm like, oh, really? Is that 19% of the folks on the call identify collaboration with churches as a top challenge, or and then 50% say that it's the second challenge. So we'd love to see some more partnership there, but let's keep moving with the movers. That's the motto on that one. And speaking of movers, we've got a bunch of movers that are on the call today, but we get to hear from one of the movers in specifically, and that's Raina at Trellis in Costa Mesa area. And she's agreed to, I shared a call with her recently, and she was embarrassed when I told her that she basically has a doctoral degree in city changing, and she's like, no, I do not. But I'm going to let y'all be the judge of that, because we're going to hear a little bit from her, because I'm going to fire a couple of questions her way, and she gets to tell us a little bit about how they've gotten to where they've gotten. So Raina, thanks a ton for your willingness to let me quiz you just for a few minutes here for this, for the good of the order. And I know that so many on this call have loads to say around this topic as well. And we look forward to hearing from y'all in the breakouts, especially. So, okay, Raina, Trellis has at least four initiatives happening. How did you discern what initiatives to go about doing?
Yes. My morning brain is like still there. It's such a challenge. So I apologize if I'm a little bit slow this morning. Yeah, I absolutely cannot take credit for our four initiatives. I'm a newbie on my team, and I thank you, Dave, for thinking I have a doctorate. As an Asian, that makes me really happy. But I think for us, we discern our four initiatives by seeing where the gaps in our city. And something that Dave and I discussed in our call is, we did not decide those gaps. We listened, we talked to leaders, and we asked a lot of questions before deciding those four initiatives. And one of the things, so I'll just quickly go over our four initiatives is prayer. We value prayer, and prayer is the foundation of everything that we do. Then the biggest city challenge is homelessness in Costa Mesa, which that's not the case for every city. But for Costa Mesa, the city identified homelessness as the biggest challenge. And of course, for us, we do not ever want to neglect the next generation because they are our future leaders. So schools is our third initiative. And the fourth initiative, actually, it's been through a few formations. When it first started, it was actually called cultural integration because there's been a cultural gap in our city. But they have found that when you speak about cultural integration as the forefront, it actually dismisses a lot of people, and a lot of people don't want to listen to you when you bring that conversation. So they rebrand it to Neighboring Initiative, which is something that I oversee. So those are the four initiatives. And if you have any questions about our four initiatives, you can feel free to visit our website, wearetrellis.com, and lovecostamesa.org to find more information.
And okay, when your encouragement, particularly, I asked a question, hey, should we do like featuring of other nonprofits, or should we go after an initiative specifically? And you actually gave a great answer in our conversation, which was essentially, well, you don't have the information to make that decision. You need to go out and listen. Talk to us a little bit about the listening that that Trellis does.
Yeah, gosh, I'm like so bummed this is an 8 a.m. meeting. My brain will work so much better if it was like an hour. So let me think about this day for a sec. Can you repeat the question one more time, just so I can
Yeah,
pop?
talk to us about, let me ask you a different way, and I'll say, okay, we need to listen to the needs of the city. So who is it that I need to listen to, and what do I need to ask them?
Yeah, so when we talk about listening, I'm curious to see what you guys think or who you think we should be listening to, because that's also really important. Every single city has a different makeup. And as Trellis, I'm most familiar with Costa Mesa, but it does not mean that what I do in Costa Mesa should be replicated in your city, because every city's makeup is so different. So just to give you an example of the people that we should most likely try to go after, it does not mean that you should be going after. So for us, I always think the city council members is a great start to kind of find out the pulse of the city. And the reason for that is, even though some city council members may have a political pool, but many of them locally, they run because they saw a need in the city and they did not know how to fix that need or solve that problem. So they have already done deep research, deep listening. And the cool thing about political figures, if you guys, don't know, and I honestly didn't know anything about politics before this job, is many of them campaign and they knock on every single door in their district. And that is such a powerful way of listening to your neighborhood, simply by knocking on people's doors and listening. So many of the city council members that I've spoken to, they really know the needs of the community because simply they have seen and they have heard from many neighbors what is going on in the community. So I think that's a good step one. A step two for me is if you can reach someone in the city manager's office. So there's always we like to say the city council and the city manager's office, they're, I don't know if it's they're like the parents and the kids. I always like to say the city council members are kind of the children that the city managers are managing, and city managers actually will agree with that statement. This Newport Beach city manager used that analogy. But the city managers have been there for a long long time. So they see the longevity of what's going on in a city. So if you're able to reach someone in that office or reach someone in that department, that's a great department to start asking questions. And of course, from our school standpoint, the people who would know is our PTA presidents and our principals. So those are the two categories that you would want to tackle if you would like to start asking questions on what the status of the school, how the school is doing. And I think the last category that we are starting to emphasize, I've noticed on this call, is our pastors. Our pastors, they're the ones who have the heart. They're the ones who are spiritually caring for their congregation. And so they know the spiritual heartbeat of what is going on in a city. And so I think those are kind of the main big categories of people that we should be asking questions and listening to.
Super helpful and specific. Okay, so you've got multiple initiatives. Do you target your work by engaging volunteers, or do you engage with organizations that then engage volunteers? So do you work directly with them or kind of indirectly with organizations like churches or other nonprofits that have volunteer base?
Yeah, so I say we do both. And if your organization, and I always tell people, like, if you have an ego, like, this is not the right job for you. Because the ego is totally going to get in the way of truly being humble about serving the city. So if you're coming into this space and you're like, you know what, I want to host this amazing volunteer opportunity. I want to do a food drive. I want to do a clothing drive, just because you want it to be branded with your, logo and all that. I would say you are in the wrong business, because that is not what this work is about. This work is about elevating those who are already serving the city, those who are already meeting the needs. And you know what? If you discover that there is a gap in the city, and that's where, like, hey, you know what? That's the lane I can play. That is the role that I can play. Great. You can host that. You can, that can be your brand. That can be all that. But when Dave and I talked, I said, there's never one or the other. I think it's both. It's seeing where the gaps are, but also elevating, encouraging, supporting, praying for leaders who are most likely burned out. They are, they're working so hard to meet the needs of our foster kids, of our parents, of our, homeless individuals. I mean, dealing with the homeless, let's be honest, it's very hard. I love them to pieces, but they totally frustrate me to no end. So our goal in this space is to be encouraging, and honestly praying for them. And one of the things, we have a new staff member, and she has this huge heart to pray for our business leaders. And so I think it's really important to not just say, hey, you know what, I just want to do this. I want to be this giant in the city. I think that is a totally wrong approach, and you can fight me with it, and, we can duel it out. But I think having a humble approach of knowing, hey, if I can fill a gap, great. But you know what, if there's somebody else filling that gap, I want to encourage, I want to support, and I want to do everything I can to bring them volunteers and not just what I'm doing. I don't know if that answers your question, Dave, but
Yeah,
that's just
for sure.
how I personally feel.
That's great. And now you're starting to see some of this passion come out even at 8 a.m. as the coffee gets flowing. So, okay, one final question is your word of advice to city leaders that are looking to start city ongoing initiatives was pick a lane. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So one of the hard things, I think, in this space, so it's a kind of a tough tension, and Ian, our executive director, always tells us we are not in the game of solving issues. We're, I'm not even saying this correctly, but our job is to manage the tension. So one of the tensions as a leader in this space is you will be going and asking all these questions, and you are going to be listening to a lot of people. And that's a lot of voices constantly grabbing your attention. And so what I have found working with leaders is you want to go after and please these leaders because they're really important people. Our mayor is really important. Our city manager is really important. Our big business guy is really important. But my advice is that you choose one thing and you do it well. Because if you're starting all 4 initiatives at the same time, I guarantee something will falter because I think it's just I don't know, it's like a practice where if there's too many on our plate, something doesn't go right. And so I think it's really important to listen, but also pray for discernment of, hey, God, like, what is the one thing that you are calling me to go after? If it's the schools, great. Go full force with the schools, support the schools, find out the needs about the schools, rally around the schools year round. But if it's the neighboring aspect, if you're seeing a lot of vulnerable neighbors in need of help, go full force around rallying the neighbors. And that's just, a personal advice. I think doing one thing and doing it well is going to speak volumes to a city. And they'll know that you care and you're there for the long term and not just making fluff. I'm really good at making things look fluffy and nice, but it's super important for us to do things well and have longevity. So if you're in this space and you're like, I'm only here for 1 year, honest to God, I say this is not the right space. You cannot do this work if you're only in it for the short term, because you will not, people don't trust you if you're in it for the short term. So I don't know if anything I said was helpful, Dave. I hope it was, but anybody can feel free to reach out to me if they have any other questions.
Super helpful. And what Raina just said, she just gave us all a gift. Feel free to reach out to me. Did you hear that? One of the most valuable parts of this particular network is the faces that you see on screen. We've got some incredible leaders, some incredible experts that are on the call. And so we're going to tap into that expertise right now. So Danielle, help us to get to the point where we can pick the brains of the folks that are on the call with us.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm going to be asking you all a couple of questions, just kind of on reflection of what Raina has said. Raina, that was incredible. I took so many notes. That was so many good nuggets. But so I'm going to ask you guys a few questions, and then we're going to go into our breakouts. But before we do that, I'm going to ask these questions, and I've got a little bit of a twist on our breakout rooms. And so we'll get there, but I'll leave you hanging. So as far as just kind of reflection of our conversation today, everybody take out a pen or, your keyboard, and I'm going to ask you, what is one insight, one thing you learned that you captured from this conversation with Raina? What is one insight, one thing you learned from our interview with Raina? Okay, and our next question is, what is a current ongoing initiative challenge that you are facing? And maybe you're thinking, well, I don't have an ongoing initiative yet, but so what's your challenge with that? Why are you not doing that? What is the challenge that you are facing to move forward in that? So what is a current ongoing initiative challenge that you are facing? And then our last question is, what is a plan to address that challenge what is the plan to address that challenge that has arisen out of the insight that you captured from Raina? So maybe that Raina kind of threw in a nugget there, or in our conversation here this morning, is there a plan to address that challenge that came from this conversation? So I'll give you just a few more seconds. All right. So our twist on our breakout room, so we're gonna break out here. But what we're actually gonna do is, so every person is going to have 4 minutes. And your first minute will be you sharing your challenge and your plan to address that challenge. And Dave, butt in if I'm wrong on any of this. So your first minute is to say, hey, this is what I'm being challenged with, and this is my plan as of right now to address that. The second 2 minutes in your 4 minute slot is giving the opportunity for everyone else in your group to only ask questions. So I don't want you guys to give answers. I want you to simply ask questions. And so a lot of the times it might feel a little bit awkward, I feel like we're silent. I promise you the questions will start coming. And so what this is doing is it's promoting a little bit of a deeper thought process in how you're addressing those challenges. And if there's silence in those 2 minutes, lean into it. Think about it harder. Think about how could you ask this a question to help promote progress in that challenge a little bit better. Keep thinking, keep digging. So you've got 1 minute to share your challenge, and then 2 minutes for the rest of the group to just ask questions, to try to dig a little bit deeper in that challenge, in that process. Does that all make sense? I know it's a little tricky, but I believe in you guys. Cool. So let's break out and share those. Oh, go for it, Dave.
One more thing is that we're going to need a timekeeper in each of the groups. So the timekeeper is the person that has the highest house number. The highest house number. You're the timekeeper, so get out your timing device, whatever it might be. And I mean, we need you all to be dictatorial about the timekeeping. Like you hit 2 minutes and boom, you're shutting everybody else up. Okay. So timekeepers, you get to go on a power trip. So you can give that a whirl. Okay. So we are headed to make this happen in breakouts. Have a ball learning from one another.
Jeff, if I could, you asked me a question. If you're discouraged about your church, don't be. If they never come to the table as a full body of Christ, am I muted? Then do not stop what you're doing. Do not wait for them. People are in need of, as our group just discussed, they need Jesus out in the community today, and they cannot wait for the church.
That's good.
Jeff.
It's Jeff.
Yeah, we can't hear you if you're talking. I don't know what's happening. All right. So Jeff, are you? Nope.
He's not on mute. I don't know what's happening.
He's not. I don't know what's happening. But Jeff, I can take it from here.
The Holy Ghost is handing the microphone to Danielle.
Okay. Hey, did you guys have some good conversations? Did you find that's awesome? Jeff, I'm sorry. Hey, I would really